Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has spent decades branding himself as Hollywood's hardest worker and most bankable star, but his ego may have just destroyed everything he built. For years, whispers of steroid use have followed him, because even in his 50s, his body looks almost unnatural. His feud with Vin Diesel nearly ripped Fast and Furious apart, with reports of both stars refusing to back down and Johnson publicly mocking his co-stars as candy asses. On the set of Red Notice, insiders claim he clashed with Ryan Reynolds after showing up hours late. Crews allege he's delayed entire productions by arriving up to 7 hours late or skipping filming days completely, and Johnson himself admitted to the bizarre habit of peeing in bottles on set instead of taking bathroom breaks. But the damage isn't just behind the scenes. His long-hyped superhero project Black Adam was supposed to change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe, but it flopped hard, losing tens of millions. His $250 million Christmas movie Red One was even worse, panned by critics and ignored by audiences. Therefore, when Johnson and Oprah launched a charity fund for Maui wildfire victims, instead of praise, he was slammed as greedy and fake. Proof that even the public no longer buys his man of the people act. Once untouchable, Dwayne Johnson's empire is now riddled with cracks, and at the center of it all is his ego. Before the scandals and flops, Dwayne Johnson was Hollywood's golden boy. He had the kind of crossover success most celebrities only dream of. From electrifying audiences in WWE as the People's Champion, he transitioned into film at a time when no one believed a wrestler could dominate the box office. But The Rock didn't just survive in Hollywood, he took over. By the mid-2010s, studios trusted him to rescue failing franchises. Fast and Furious gained new life the moment he joined the cast. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle was expected to flop, but instead became a billion-dollar global hit. Even animated films like Moana solidified his status as a family-friendly star beloved by parents and kids alike. The money followed. Johnson became the highest-paid actor in the world, cashing checks worth $20 to $30 million per film, plus lucrative deals for producing, merchandising, and endorsements. His Instagram persona, part motivational speaker, part fitness guru, part family man, made him appear both larger than life and relatable. Therefore, by the late 2010s, The Rock was seen as the ultimate franchise savior, the actor studios could rely on when everything else failed. But success comes with a cost. At his peak, Johnson carefully curated an image of discipline, humility, and authenticity. Yet behind the curtain, the ego that helped him climb to the top was already creating cracks in his empire. The Rock's entire empire rests on one thing: his body. He's built a global brand around discipline, training at 4 a.m., and pushing the limits of hard work. But can anyone really maintain that kind of physique naturally into their 50s? For years, whispers of steroid use and performance-enhancing drugs have followed Johnson. Fans and fitness experts point out how his muscle mass, vascularity, and sheer size seem almost impossible to maintain without chemical help. Johnson insists he's natural, claiming it's just decades of training and clean living. But many don't buy it. The problem is, his image isn't just about acting. It's about being the symbol of authenticity, discipline, and inspiration. His entire Iron Paradise gym persona, his motivational Instagram posts, and his business ventures all feed into the idea that he earned everything naturally. Therefore, if the steroid allegations are true, it shatters the very foundation of his brand. And even if the rumors can't be proven, they've already planted doubt. To critics, The Rock's physique doesn't represent hard work anymore. It represents a lie, a carefully staged illusion to keep his empire intact. If steroids raised questions about his image, Johnson's ego on set turned whispers into headlines. The most infamous example came from the Fast and Furious franchise. What should have been Hollywood's most profitable family turned into a public feud between Johnson and Vin Diesel. Behind the scenes, their rivalry grew toxic. Reports surfaced that Johnson, Diesel, and Jason Statham even had contract clauses preventing them from losing fights on screen because none of them wanted to look weak. Johnson publicly blasted some of his male co-stars as candy asses in a now viral Instagram post, a move that exposed just how ugly things had become. But instead of patching things up, the feud got worse, and Johnson eventually walked away from the main franchise, spinning off into Hobbs and Shaw. What was meant to cement his power instead revealed a superstar unwilling to share the spotlight. And it wasn't just Diesel. On the set of Red Notice, insiders say Johnson and Ryan Reynolds clash after Reynolds had to wait 5 hours for The Rock to show up. Crew members accused Johnson of showing up 7 hours late, or sometimes missing entire days of shooting, delays that cost studios millions. The pattern was clear. Johnson's reputation as the hardest worker in the room clashed with stories of a man whose ego put everyone else on hold. Therefore, what once looked like discipline and professionalism now looked like arrogance and control. The Rock wasn't just a star anymore. He was a problem. For years, Dwayne Johnson hyped Black Adam as the movie that would change everything. He spent nearly 15 years pushing Warner Brothers, claiming the hierarchy of power in the DC universe was about to change. It was supposed to be his defining role, the film that crowned him as Hollywood's ultimate superhero. But the reality was very different. The budget ballooned to nearly $260 million when marketing was included, yet the film grossed just under $400 million worldwide. On paper, that sounds big, but insiders confirmed the movie actually lost tens of millions of dollars. Worse, the critical reception was brutal, with reviews slamming it as generic and forgettable. Johnson's ego only made things worse. He reportedly blocked attempts to connect Black Adam with Shazam, the character's original counterpart, because he didn't see it as big enough for his brand. Instead, he pushed for a Henry Cavill Superman return that was announced with great fanfare, only to be cancelled weeks later when James Gunn took over DC. Therefore, Johnson's power play backfired spectacularly. What was meant to be his superhero empire ended up being one of the most humiliating failures of his career. Instead of cementing his legacy, Black Adam exposed the cracks in it. If Black Adam cracked The Rock's armor, Red One shattered it. The Christmas action film was supposed to be another franchise-launching blockbuster backed by Amazon with a massive $250 million budget. Johnson starred alongside Chris Evans, and on paper, it had everything needed to succeed. But behind the scenes, the story was chaos. Crew members alleged that Johnson regularly showed up 7 to 8 hours late, sometimes skipping entire filming days altogether. His chronic tardiness caused costly delays, ballooning the already oversized budget. Even co-star Chris Evans was reportedly furious after being left waiting on set for hours. And then came the most bizarre scandal of them all. Johnson himself admitted that yes, he sometimes pees in bottles on set instead of taking bathroom breaks. What he brushed off as a time-saving habit quickly became internet fodder, reducing Hollywood's highest-paid actor to a punchline. But the joke cost more than laughs. When Red One finally released, it bombed. Critics tore it apart, audiences stayed away, and what was supposed to be a holiday tentpole turned into an embarrassing financial sinkhole. Therefore, instead of cementing Johnson as a bankable star, Red One confirmed what many had already begun to suspect. The Rock's star power no longer guaranteed success. For years, Dwayne Johnson's greatest strength wasn't just his muscles or his movies. It was his image. He built himself up as the humble family man, the motivational superstar, the guy who was just like us despite being one of the richest actors alive. But that carefully crafted persona is starting to collapse. In 2023, Johnson and Oprah launched a fundraiser for victims of the Maui wildfires. On the surface, it looked like another act of generosity, but the backlash was immediate. Fans accused the billionaire duo of asking struggling everyday people to donate, while they themselves contributed only a fraction of their fortunes. What was meant to showcase compassion instead exposed Johnson as out of touch and self-serving. Then came criticism of his Teremana tequila brand, marketed as authentic and tied to his personal story. It was slammed as yet another example of a celebrity cashing in on Mexican culture. To critics, it was less about passion and more about profit. And even without scandals, there's the problem of overexposure. From Jungle Cruise to Skyscraper to Rampage, Johnson has played the same larger-than-life action hero so many times that audiences are no longer buying tickets out of excitement. They're staying away out of fatigue. Therefore, the once beloved people's champion has started to look more like Hollywood's most overexposed salesman. For years, The Rock was the blueprint, the wrestler who broke into Hollywood and became bigger than the business itself. But today, he's being outshined by the very people who followed in his footsteps. Take Dave Bautista. Once just another WWE name, Bautista carved out a reputation as a serious actor, earning praise for his roles in Blade Runner 2049, Dune, and Knock at the Cabin. Critics call him versatile, understated, and willing to take risks Johnson never would. While he started in the same action hero lane, Cena leaned into comedy and self-parody with The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Audiences appreciate that he doesn't take himself too seriously, a sharp contrast to Johnson's carefully controlled, ego-driven image. Meanwhile, The Rock has spent decades playing the same role. The muscle-bound savior who always wins, never loses a fight, and never looks weak. That formula worked for a time, but therefore, while Bautista and Cena are gaining respect as real actors, Johnson is stuck playing himself. Instead of growing, he doubled down on ego. And in Hollywood, ego is always temporary. Dwayne Johnson once looked unstoppable, a man who could save franchises, dominate the box office, and inspire millions with his story of discipline and hard work. But now the truth is impossible to ignore. The steroid whispers never went away. His feud with Vin Diesel exposed his ego to the world. His clashes with Ryan Reynolds, his chronic lateness, and even the bizarre pee bottle scandal painted him as unprofessional. And when his passion projects Black Adam and Red One collapsed into humiliating box office disasters, the myth of The Rock as Hollywood's golden boy went with them. His charity backlash, his tequila controversy, and his endless self-promotion only added fuel to the fire. The Rock didn't just overexpose himself. He revealed the cracks in his carefully polished image. Therefore, the man who built his reputation on being indestructible has finally shown weakness. The Rock's ego made him larger than life, but it also blinded him to reality. His empire wasn't built on humility or authenticity. It was built on control, hype, and the illusion of being untouchable. And now that illusion is collapsing. Dwayne Johnson will always be remembered as one of the most famous entertainers of his era, but his ego may have destroyed the legacy he wanted most.